Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lock and Load Show, broadcasting on gunchannels.com and all across the interwebs from the big island of Hawaii and all across the universe. So, thanks for tuning in. I've got my incredible, great friends and panelists here, Squibload and Patrick.
Hello, hello.
And I got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I want to start with a local story for me. And although I imagine it's pretty common everywhere, this is pretty much on my block. This picture, this is a storm drain under a highway. Well, it's almost on my block. It's one street over, and after years. This homeless encampment, which had about 36 people in it, was finally cleared out, and the state took about 23 tons of trash out of here. And so these are the storm drains under the main highway on under Queen K and Henry Street. They used to be right across from a Borders store, but the Borders closed, and it's diagonally across the street from the Walmart, and there's a Lowe's nearby too. So the story of this is, I guess, homeless camps are, I guess, similar everywhere, but there was a couple of deaths related to this. The first one was, I think, 2014. Assaulting, basically, there was a camp justice, some kind of camp justice, and somebody was accused of violating homeless women who was around the camp. So he got shot dead, and the corpse was laying there for a few days, and people would just step over it. And eventually somebody told the police that there's a dead body there. And so the person who did it is in jail for manslaughter. They didn't convict him of murder, I guess, because maybe they thought this is Hawaii. It doesn't make any sense to me. He was enraged because somebody was violated and he shot somebody. Doesn't make a lick of sense to me. But then the latest death was what happened was up in Captain Cook, about 5 miles south or so. Uphill, a 16-year-old girl ran away, or just snuck out of her bedroom window or bathroom window, and she wanted to party with her boyfriend, one of the homeless people at the camp. And so this was a while ago, and she started just with marijuana and partying, teenage rebellion, partying at the homeless camp. Was more fun than hanging out at home. And so 16 years later, or whatever, when she was 38 years old, she basically spent her whole life growing up in this tunnel. And she was apparently a talented artist, did paintings, and but she became addicted to heroin, and she basically died of a heroin overdose in the tunnel. And she left behind 4 kids, and she spent her whole life living in these tunnels. And she blew off. She was, I guess, very pretty or something, because somebody gave her a ticket to compete in some model contest for good-looking models in Spain. But she blew all that off because she wanted to just take oxycodone and hang out in this storm drain. And I used to always walk right by this place every night, and it's a very dangerous area to walk around at night, even though it's right through the center of town. So there's basically homeless encampments, all over America, but this was right in the center of Kona. I was just scroll through a few more pictures of it. And the problem with this, here's a It's an extra key. There's a little lean-to or that was set up from trash that was dumped in like on the side of the road. Basically, because this is a storm drain, this particular shot is funny because there's a like they put up a Hawaiian flag and they must have stole this private property no trespassing sign, and because they like tore off the front top of it and because the bottom half is missing, it says private property no trespassing. Well, it's not private property, it's government property, and that was the reason why nobody ever dealt with this for years. Because this is bureaucratic mumbo jumbo, but this was under the highway, this property. So it was under the authority of the Department of Transportation. So the Department of Transportation doesn't usually deal with homeless people, which, I mean, you think they would, because the whole country is people live under bridges and in situations just like this. And obviously they put up some chicken wire and put that sign up because they don't want people stealing their stuff, which happens all the time in homeless camps. People steal other people's stuff. But so the Department of Transportation didn't know what to do. And they said, we can't do anything because we don't have any resources and we don't have a plan. So they got in touch with the governor's office. And this thing has been going on for like over a decade. and you know, people are dealing drugs out of this place. It's just once you get a big homeless camp full of 30 or people or whatever, then all kinds of just bad karma comes out of it, and people get killed. So, which is what was happening. But because it was the Department of Transportation, it's like they said, well, we're not going to do anything until we have a plan. And so the governor of Hawaii has this appointed person called the homelessness coordinator. And so he tried to come up with a plan, but it took years. Meanwhile, people are getting shot. This girl died of a heroin overdose. And I think that was the last straw. And when the police, they specifically told the police when the police went down into this camp not to toss them out because they didn't have anything to do with it. They don't have any plan or what to do with these people. As if that was a requirement that they couldn't just evict them. So it's like, here it is with the tarp up. And that almost looks like a chair I threw out a long time ago. A broken down old chair, but they set up a tarp, and this was 30 people lived here or so, something like that, 3 dozen, I think. And so this is like the underground of where a lot of people live. And I don't really have, it's just, oh, sorry, that's my leather magazine pouch. But it's like, I don't know what makes a 16-year-old girl want to live and in a place like this, run away from home. I think she was a stepdaughter of wasn't her actual father, but but it's like, I mean, you really want to live here? So the state took out 23 tons of trash out of this place, but I don't see how they're going to stop anybody from going back in. But it literally took over a decade before the Department of Transportation told the police they could take people off their property. I mean, they've never dealt with homeless people. I mean, they would have been doing these people a favor by booting them out because people got killed in this camp. People died in this camp because the Department of Transportation was in charge. I mean, if you want something screwed up with the government in charge, they'll screw it up. So because the Department of Transportation couldn't figure out what to do with these people, they let them stay there. I mean, it's a public health hazard, I mean, I walked right by this place. I always carried my karambit, and I always carried at least 2 knives. I mean, because there's people living in the bushes that could come out, and and it's just people fighting over a patch of dirt, who was in charge of who could stay on this patch of dirt or whose rock they could sit on and stuff like that. It's just, I mean, it's not a very safe thing to have in your neighborhood, but I imagine this is it's pretty much probably like this somewhere. If you live in a city of any kind, Ancona is a pretty small town. And this is right in the center of it. I mean, smack dab in the center of it. People living in the tunnels. So it just seems to me that putting it, I mean, how did the Department of Transportation get put in charge of this? It's because the reason they got put in charge is because technically it's their land, and no, you can't throw a homeless person off of a piece of land unless you're the owner of the land. And the government alphabet agency is DOT, that's in charge of this any highway, public transportation highway. So, and the homelessness coordinator doesn't have enough resources. They don't have enough homeless resources to even deal with people living in the park right in the center of Honolulu. I mean, there's hundreds of people like living in the park. I know because when I went to the hospital there at Queens, we had to drive right by them to get to the hospital. So it's like, sometimes you'd see like the police, if there was an issue with some crazy homeless person, then there would be the police there, and they would just call an ambulance, and the ambulance would take them to the emergency room where they could get, I don't know, a free meal or some kind of treatment for whatever it was that made them crazy in the first place. But I don't know why people would live like this. I can tell you this: the grid, if the shit hit the fan, the grid went down. The last place I would pick to set up a camp would be someplace like this, because not only does every other homeless person in the area know about it already, so do the authorities, and you're going to get, I mean, it's just, it might look like a place where, wow, you've got shelter, you've got concrete bunker, if radiation falls from the sky. I mean, no, there's just too much there's too many bad things that can happen from people that already know about this place. It's like putting up a sign saying, "Here I am. Wait till I fall asleep and kill me or take my stuff." And it's just, yeah. And the police weren't allowed to do anything about it for years. They were specifically told, you can't throw them out, by the Department of Transportation. And since they're in charge of the land, it was like one agency of the government telling another agency that they couldn't fix this problem. And all the police could do is go through and ask to see if anybody, asked for ID and see if anybody had a warrant out. And so they did warrant sweeps, and they would bring with them some agents, some public service company that helped homeless people, to see if they could somehow help them. These are people that didn't want to be helped. They didn't want to stop doing drugs. They didn't want to get a job. They didn't want to pay rent. They didn't want, I mean, they've been living here for over a decade. And so when this girl named Cheyenne finally died after living in these tunnels, basically running away from home and living in this place, I mean, she had 4 kids, and instead of being with them or trying to make a living as a model, and she had a free ticket to Spain for a professional modeling contest, I mean, she blew all that off to just do heroin in a tunnel. So I don't know whose fault you can say this is, but putting the government in charge sure didn't help. And but they are in charge because it's their land. I mean, and it's like, if it's so easy to do adverse possession, but it's like, wow, you could just move into a government building and nobody can throw you out and except the government. And they have to figure out which agency has the authority to do that first. And it took over a decade in this particular case. And this is right on my block, so I figured I'd talk about it. So, all right, Squib, if you have something to say about homeless people living in tunnels, Lock and load.
You kind of said it. I mean, as far as the choices these people have made, they're not there. I remember when I was younger, they used to talk about homeless people and like commercials or public service announcements about, here they are living in their car, and they're living in their car because dad lost his job and there was no work, and they had their public assistance ran out, and they're just dying and starving and sick and cold, and it's like, wait, hold up. You're telling me that they lost their house, they lost everything because dad lost his job. Okay, you go get another job. You work 2 jobs. You get mom to work. You cut back. You move in with your in-laws, even though you don't want to. You get on public assistance. You get assistance from your church or from your friends. Or there's so many resources out there. People don't end up homeless because the one and only factory in town shut down and there was just no other way. They're homeless because they choose to be homeless. And I think that it was kind of a liberal point of view as far as how they end up that way. And because of that, I think a lot more people have sympathy for these people. When the truth of the matter is, having sympathy for them doesn't help them get out of their situation, doesn't encourage them to get out of their situation. Spreading lies about how they end up homeless. I remember when they used to talk about these people being homeless because they had nowhere to turn and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they got homeless because they are on drugs, and they destroyed their lives and they destroyed their family lives because of drugs. And drugs led to other things, like getting in trouble with the law, gambling, whatever it was, and ended up losing everything. And sure, going from having a really well-paying job to working 2 part-time minimum wage jobs, you can't make up the money loss. You've got to learn how to get by with just common sense stuff. Not to mention everybody, and I don't care who you are, everybody has friends, everybody has family. If you choose not to have a church, that's your choice. I'm not saying you have to have one as a backup plan, but there are a lot of churches that will help out their members. And then there's all of these charitable organizations, and then there's government assistance. So we all know that these people are there for one reason and one reason only. Another problem with that is all the crime that goes on because of that. These people get their money through theft, through drug dealing, through prostitution. And all those are other crimes. All those are the crimes that come from all like you were saying, it's dangerous to walk over there. I've heard stories about homeless people living in underpasses where they've actually kind of dug out some of them and weakened the bridges that the cars were driving over. That's not good. So, and then what do you do when you do have all these people and let's say they did send in the police? What are they going to do? Take them to jail? Now we're paying for them. We're paying for them to get booked and get in jail. While they're in jail, we got to feed them, give them medical, blah, the list just goes on and on and on. So these are the people in society that don't want to get up every day like you and I do. Well, you're retired now, but like you used to, okay, and go to work and earn a paycheck and pay taxes and deal with life. Oh my goodness, life is tough. Well, you can hide by getting high all the time, or you can
It's an escape.
Stick it out like everybody else and deal with it. Life isn't fair. Life isn't perfect. Okay, you get through it. You just do, but not these people. And they're a drain on society. And it sucks that it's dangerous over there for them. It's dangerous over there for anybody. And they are in other cities too. If you go into Las Vegas, they've got the flood tunnels there, and there's a homeless population that lives there, as well as on the street. We don't have a homeless population in my township, but the city, one city over, they do. and you can see them on the highway. When the shelter's giving out free food, because at a couple minutes past 5, there'll be a line of them walking across the highway with their little styrofoam boxes because they're going over to the little shelter to get their free food, and then they're going back to their crack house or their little garbage city or whatever it is. And it kind of sucks, but the fact that years ago, and I don't even know if they still do it today, but that they present these people as victims when it's not. They're people who made poor choices and continue to make poor choices. Like you said, she had an opportunity to be a model. Nope, she just wanted to stay there and not deal with reality. And it's not fair for us, the people that do get up every day and deal with life, to have to support these people or have to be in fear of our own public safety over them.
Well, it's more like we're in fear of our own government. Here's the thing, that my particular state senator, we used to be work in the Kona Community Hospital, I guess, emergency room, and he's running for lieutenant governor. And I got to state up front that I really don't like this guy. But anyway, without going into the whole background of that, he's proposed that homelessness be declared a medical condition, and so that he can use Medicaid to support all these people. So
they did the same thing with alcoholism. Alcoholism is deemed a disease. It's not a disease. It's a habit. But if they call it a habit, the medical insurance will pay for counseling.
Just had a shot of Irish whiskey. That's
not alcoholism.
Right.
What they call alcoholism a disease, so the insurance will pay for it, so that there can be public assistance programs for alcohol. And it sounds stupid, but it's really an insurance thing. So he's just doing the same thing they did with alcoholism. He's labeling it a certain way in order to get money for it.
How is homelessness a medical condition?
It isn't. Neither is alcoholism, but they do it in order to get money. It's legal BS.
But they want to. That's what they want to do with guns. Do they want to say anybody that owns a gun is crazy? So there's no valid reason for one to own a gun. So if you own a gun, you're crazy. Therefore, we can stop you from owning a gun because you're crazy, because you have a gun or you want to have a gun. I mean, it's their whole. I don't know.
Well, they're wanting to do the same thing with pedophilia too. I read that 2 days ago, that they want to make people that are pedophiles having a medical condition that needs to be treatable and all that. I'm like, oh God, seriously? Yeah, it was screwed up.
Well, this girl ran away from her home to be with some older guy and smoke pot and then which eventually she switched to heroin in some storm drain. I mean, I don't know. People just don't. I mean, didn't somebody once say in Ecclesiastes or somewhere, like, teach your children well? Or was that just like a Crosby, Stills and Nash song? I don't know. All I know, if somebody did that, if I had a daughter and somebody did that to my daughter, I would beat everyone up in the camp, and then I'd take enough explosives to just blow up the tunnel. Hold up.
She chose that life.
Yeah, she did.
She chose. If anything, you should look in the mirror and go, "What sort of parent am I?
Yeah,
that I raised my child to act like this." And whenever I'm dealing with somebody,
nevertheless, who's got
kids that have made bad choices,
enraged.
It's just, I've talked to other parents, and to a certain extent, you can't control your kids once they get to be a certain age, or they move out, or they do this, or you can't be hovering over them 24/7, knowing everything. You just have to hope that you do a good job. But some of it does come to, it's not even that you didn't necessarily teach them all the right things. It's some of the things that you allowed them to get exposed to. I'm not saying that there's 100% chance of keeping your kid out of every little thing, but some stuff, she had that happen to herself because she chose it. So if you were the dad, no, you shouldn't be mad about that. You should be mad at her or mad at yourself. And I'm not saying those people are good. No, they did evil things. But she intentionally put herself in a place where evil things could happen to her. It's not like she was forced in there. She chose it.
Yeah, she did at the age of 16. I don't know what the age of consent is in Hawaii legally, and but because I don't have a daughter, is probably why I don't know. But um, I would be so enraged. I wouldn't have waited for the government to do anything. I would have just blown up the fucking tunnel. And if the entire belt main highway around the island collapsed because of it, so much the better. But it's just waiting for the government to fix the problem. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Anyway, let's see. All right, I think we beat that one to death. Let's see what else I got. I did want to I wanted to show some of the lava video. That park that I showed last week got wiped out by the lava, and me and Patrick were talking before about. I think we both watched a show on the Smithsonian Channel about the Yellowstone supervolcano, and it just didn't seem. It didn't seem that anybody living on the mainland could survive the Yellowstone supervolcano. From what I saw from the documentary, the last time the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted in a massive explosion was over 600,000 years ago. So whenever it comes, I just don't see anything in North America surviving. I think it pretty much killed everything in North America last time and blew up. And the ash was the #1 killer. All the glass particles and stuff. So let's show some. Obviously, Kilauea is a lot smaller than the Yellowstone supervolcano, but at least this one is erupting now. It took out a very beautiful the Ahulani beach park and hot pond that I showed last week, and so that's no longer with us anymore. Let's see if I could pull up some video, but it was a very peaceful, relaxing place, and I guess just some things only live in our memories now. But
well, I do know one thing about Yellowstone is over the past few months, the geological stuff in Yellowstone has actually been on a rise. Like all the guys are going off at different times and different pools and animals leaving and this and that, more so than it has in several or many years.
Well, when it erupts in a big supervolcano, the whole world will know. I mean,
yeah. We're all going to know. We're going to hear it and see it.
Yeah, it doesn't look survivable for anyone on the North American continent to me. When that happens.
Are you worried at all about competition? From like Yellowstone Supervolcano Squad, because his channel could be bigger.
Well, I don't care who has a bigger channel.
There can be only one.
There can only be one. The Highlander.
Yellowstone Supervolcano Squad.
Well, speaking of Highlander, let's there's our perfect segue to say something nice about our friend and to pass along our condolences to a guy who was on our show a couple of weeks ago, Ron Swanson, from Surviving Life, Fox Company Prepping. Formerly, he changed his name of the channel because he lost his daughter was born 17 weeks early, premature, and with some kind of necrotizing mass. And I have a family member who's an adult, and she just barely survived necrotizing fasciitis. And for a newborn infant that's just almost an unsurvivable situation. And so his daughter only lived for 6 days. He still got a beautiful family, a wife and 2 other children, and his dog Thor. But my sincere condolences for Ron and his family. And 6 days, well, I don't have any words to ease the pain or anything. I've done like 100 different bushcrafting chats on his channel with him over the years, and he's a very funny person. I love doing shows with him. That's all, and he makes me laugh. So I'm sure he'll get back to some kind of. He'll probably get back into doing the shows as some kind of way distraction for the pain or something. I've never lost a child, so I imagine it's very painful, even if it's only, his daughter was only with him for 6 days. So anyway, let's show some gratuitous volcano video. Let's see, hit the screen share button here. Let's see, screen share. So here's the volcano. It never stops moving, never stops erupting. And the Ahulani Beach Park is no longer there. Kapoho, 2 subdivisions in Kapoho, the beach lots and vacation land is no longer there. Right, they'll show some Ahalanui Beach Park video. So you can, this is before it was overrun on the boat ramp. I'm just going to show this. I think they have a few more close-ups of it. But that's the coastline along Red Road. It is an awe-inspiring display of half a mile away from here. Basically, people would go out surfing. This is the Isaac Hale Beach Park boat ramp. Surfers would basically usually go up on the edge of this little jetty or whatever it is, and then just paddle out to the waves where the waves break right here, and into the little boat ramp area. And there'd usually be like 4 or 5 foot waves you could go surfing on there. So the last I heard, the lava's a half a mile away from here. Hopefully it'll survive. It's hard to say which way the lava will go, but I used to live right by there when I first moved out here. So morning again, the boat ramp. That's Hawaiian Rainbow. One time I bicycled all the way around Red Road, down Red Road up to Pahoa and back down to where I used to live, and it was really almost awe-inspiring. This rainbow appeared. I was on my road bike and it appeared right in front of me, and it was just almost magical. But so that place no longer exists. So stuff happens in life. Bad things happen in life. And like Squid was saying, I guess you have to deal with it one way or the other. All right, so we got the gratuitous volcano video. All right, I'm going to have a shot of Irish whiskey. I do that every show because somehow it seems my responsibility. All right, I think I'm gonna show that picture of my grandfather really quick to anybody, just for the record. It's a hero in my family. I've never been in the military, but my grandfather was, and that's pretty much the hero of our family. If I have this picture still up, do I? Boot it back up real quick. Photo gallery. All right.
Hey guys, I gotta run, so I will
Okay,
I'll
thanks
talk
for
to y'all later.
okay, thanks for
All
coming
right,
on
good.
in, man.
Yep. Good to see y'all. Y'all take it easy. Have a good one.
God bless. Take it easy.
Yep.
Thanks again for showing up. All right, so this is my grandfather Abraham and my grandma Yetta on my mother's side. He's the hero of our family. I don't recall whether this is 1952. So he's either in New York or still in Brussels waiting for a visa after World War II. But so he fought they were my family on my mother's side were refugees, fled Poland and into Russia and the Soviet Union. And when they got to Osh, Kyrgyzstan, they were in a work camp, concrete factory, and the conditions were so poor that everyone died. It wasn't a death camp. It's just that everyone died because it was bad, very bad conditions in this concrete factory. So they formed the Second Polish Corps. There was a Polish colonel in Osh, and the Russians needed everybody that can shoot a gun and carry a rifle. So they got this Polish colonel to take the refugees and turn them into Polish Army Corps. And they gave them weapons and food and supplies. And so my grandfather, Abraham, was a sapper, and he fought on the Eastern Front for a little over 2 years, marched from Osh, Kyrgyzstan to Lublin, Poland, where he mustered out with malaria and white phosphorus burns to the right side of his face. And he never really had to shave on the right side of his face because whiskers never grew there anymore. But as a sapper, that's like the Russian Army's organizational equivalent of a combat engineer. And so pretty much with a gun and a satchel charge, they would either blow up tanks, build bridges, blow up bridges, build tank traps, blow up tank traps. And you're looking into the eyes of a veteran who killed a lot of Nazis over 2.5 years. I mean, I don't know what kind of combat people the American Army saw compared to. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies. Usually they deploy someplace for a while and then they leave, but this was 2.5 years of marching and combat on the Eastern Front. And he never talked about it to me at all. I was just a child most of the time that I knew him. And he was just my grandfather, Abraham. And he was very happy just going to temple and working as a metal worker. And having it once a month, they would have a fundraiser luncheon for the Jewish National Fund, and that was his thing. And but that's the hero of our family. 2.5 years on the Eastern Front. My uncle did his son did 2 tours in Vietnam in S2, but I mean, I don't think that was anything like the Eastern Front. I don't think anything was anything like the Eastern Front in World War II. So anyway, that's the hero of my family. Don't have too much else to say about that. There's this picture from the International Refugees mandate from the United Nations that they issued ID. Basically, in Europe after World War II, almost everybody was a refugee from somewhere. And that my grandparents wound up waiting in Brussels for 5 years for a permit to immigrate to America after the war. But that's definitely a combat veteran right there. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about him, except that I love him. And he was just to me, he was just my grandfather, Abraham. He's not somebody you want to be on the wrong side of in combat. Let's see. Oh, I saw, by the way, I watched that movie 12 Strong, which was a true story. They had the veterans that they did, like on the DVD had a video of the veterans that they played. It was about the first special forces that deployed to Afghanistan after the war. and they had like a interview, and they had written one of them had written a book about it, and it was basically they went into Afghanistan and they were they basically rode on horses to stay with the Northern Alliance Afghan, one of the generals of the Northern Afghan Army Alliance, and they basically called in airstrikes on the Taliban. And it's their book and it's their story, and it seemed to be remarkably accurate because, I mean, the veterans were there, the actors. It was Chris Hemsworth played the leader of the team, and they talked about it, and it seemed like they in their interview they said the movie was just like reliving the whole experience. So I'm assuming that it was pretty accurate movie, and you don't see a lot of accurate movies. So I would recommend 12 Strong, the DVD. It wasn't too expensive. Blu-ray at Walmart. It was like $12, I think. And I spent a little more money on Steven Spielberg miniseries called The Pacific, which is an 8 DVD set, 10 episodes, and I think also an extra special features edition on the last DVD. And that had the battles of Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima and Okinawa. And boy, after the one on Iwo Jima, I saw the one on I don't know if I didn't finish watching the last DVD, but the one on the combat in Iwo Jima, I'm too old for that shit. I couldn't do that anymore at my age. But it was impressive, and the on that episode, it was basically on Guadalcanal. One sergeant had won the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I don't know if it was true. I haven't done all the research on it yet. If it was just a fictional character or a true one. And then they sent him back for a war bonds drive, and he just couldn't take it. Just doing raising money for war bonds. I mean, a Marine general told him it was important. They needed that money to buy the Marines the stuff that they needed to fight. So he knew it was important to do the war bond drive, but he just wanted to get back into combat. So he started by he wanted to post training at Camp Pendleton, training soldiers, and then he somehow got when I think the troops for Iwo Jima shipped out of Camp Pendleton, he went with them, but that combat on Iwo Jima, jumping around in and out of the trenches, I mean, I'm too old for that kind of intense combat. I don't think I could do it right now. But it was an interesting movie to watch. And it's a mini-series. It's not a movie. And it had some historical aspects to it. And I haven't watched the last DVD to find out exactly if all the characters were real, actually based on real people. Sergeant Basil one or something was the name of the guy who won the CMH and who was just jumping around like a maniac all over the place in Iwo Jima. And it was like, maybe I could have done something like that if I was 21. But man, that was jumping up through all kinds of trench warfare up in like that sandy, rocky. I know what that soil is like exactly. It's like climbing up a sand hill. So I know exactly what the volcanic soil was like. And I was just like, man, that's absolutely insane combat. Physically demanding. Anyway, it's really cool. It comes in this painted tin box, like some World War II ration can. All the DVDs. It's got a scene from one of the beach landings painted on the tin box, and all the DVDs are in this like fold out container. So it was the packaging was well thought out. The series was well thought out. It was produced by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. Tom Hanks was not in any of the episodes. He was just one of the producers. So I'm gonna say I like that one. was called The Pacific, and the other movie I was talking about earlier was 12 Strong, about the soldiers, the first special forces into Afghanistan, and which seemed to me to be pretty realistic because all the soldiers. It was based on the book that written by the soldiers. All the actors interviewed the soldiers, and it was based on a real story of what actually happened. And they're still friends. Those soldiers apparently still keep in touch with the Northern Alliance general that they fought with is, or at least at the time of the making of the movie, is the vice president of Afghanistan. So. It's if you see it at the aisles at Walmart, pick it up. 12 Strong. All right. I'm going to check out the externals and gun channels, see if anybody's out there or typing anything. Oh, yeah. Yoder, Texas says, I saw where a lava boat was hit. Yeah, there's basically a lava bomb went flying into the sky. I think there's supposed to be a 1,000-meter exclusion zone. The Lava Tour Boat has a YouTube channel, and they've been doing tours for years. And I don't know if they violated the exact distance from the exclusion zone. The story in the paper just didn't say exactly where they were, but they sailed back, and there's a picture in the boat of just basically the lava bomb landed on the roof. A big rock landed on the roof of the boat, went through the hull of the boat. But yeah, they've got their own YouTube channel. I bet it's probably have a video of it all on there. It's explosive when the lava hits the ocean there. Let me see what I could find out real here. I'll punch something up. See if I can find a local paper online, and they'll probably have a picture of it. Hawaii. I gotta get my Hawaii folder. Hawaii Tribune Herald. These are all such left-wing papers. Yeah, here's the picture. Screen share this. 23 injured after lava explodes onto tour boat. Screen share button. Here it is. The Department of Land and Natural Resources photo. So basically the lava went through this roof and hit somebody. Somebody basically broke a leg when this big rock landed on him. The hot rock landed on him. So Mackay 3. So they basically take tourists on these either sunrise or sunset tour, and they've got on their YouTube channel, they've got incredible footage of lava flowing into the ocean going years back, including when it was like a fire hose spout. But yeah, a lot of people got hurt. It's dangerous. Volcanoes are dangerous. If you don't respect the power of nature, it will on the Big Island, it'll kill you. And I guess these people were lucky that they only got to go to the emergency room. And if you walk away from a volcanic disaster with just a broken leg, I guess you're lucky. Most of those 23 injured were just superficial. There's only one really serious injury that I know of. So basically what a lava bomb is when the lava hits the water, there's an explosion, and some of the lava goes flying into the air. It's usually probably a rock by the time that happens. But it's dangerous out there. That's why you haven't seen any footage of me walking up to the edge of the lava. I'll just screen share the helicopter footage because I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. I respect it. I'll show you pictures of the gray skies off my lanai every morning I wake up. It's like pretty much usually, unless it just rained overnight, it just gray overcast, haze of volcanic. It's just gray. You can't really tell if it's a rain cloud or just gray volcanic material in the sky because it just looks gray. So I imagine if the Yellowstone volcano went up, that's how the sky would look all over North America. Is how it looks here right now, except it's not that bad on my side of the island. But it's not that great. It's just not dangerous in that same kind of way that it would be if the Yellowstone supervolcano went up and there was at least 6 inches of ash, even as far as New York, raining down from the sky. Closer to Yellowstone, it would be like several feet of ash that everything would be buried under, enough to like collapse a house. But we'll hope that Yellowstone just minds its manners, more or less, for the foreseeable future. We have enough of our own man-made problems. We don't need any help from Mother Nature on this one. Anyway, so there's the picture of the hole in the roof of the lava boat. And I think I'll end that one. Hopefully I haven't put Squib to sleep with my babbling and rambling.
No, I just didn't see a point in jumping in. You were rolling.
Did you see my leather magazine pouch I made a video of? I basically got 4 leather magazine pouches for $13.50 off Sportsman's Guide. I thought that was a fucking incredible deal because there's no way you could even get the materials to make that. But it was French Milsurp. I know people use nowadays, it's more common to have like MOLLE mounted cloth kangaroo pouches or whatever they're called. I mean, I have some of those, but it was like 4 leather pouches. It's like, I was like, I couldn't pass that up for $13.50. So I'm going to see if I could trade one for an extra PMag, maybe 40 rounder. They still have the guy at the gun shop who wants one of these or not. If not, I don't think I would ever need 4 rounds, 4 40-round PMags unless there was a foreign invasion or an alien invasion or something. That's more ammo than I think I would ever need in just a shit hit the fan, but in one mission.
Are you running PMags in the Tavor?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Well, I can screen share it if you didn't see the video, but I posted the video on my channel.
No, I saw the video at work today.
Okay. Yeah, I put last night or the night before, I put on the Obenos leather oil. I'm going to put on some Protected too. It basically just made the leather a little more I would say moist, not as dry. But the leather was in pretty good shape when I got it. So I'm going to put the Protected on there too, which is like, I've got the leather oil and the waxy leather protectant from Obenos. And I'm starting to run low on the oil. I'm going to probably need to resupply myself because I keep buying leather stuff. I also put it on my shoes. I have those boar shoes or whatever that I got from Duluth Trading. And those are oil leather shoes. So I hit the shoes with leather oil too. So I'm going to be buying some more Obenos leather products, leather oil and wax products for my leather stuff. Other than that, I don't think too much is going on. I haven't heard anything from Dusty last few days or last few weeks. Where's he been?
He's building a bunker. I don't know.
He's building a bunker. Well, if he wants to survive the Yellowstone supervolcano, he's going to need some kind of nuclear biological air filter.
No, I'm looking at it right now. We're in zone 6. We're fine.
Zone 6? Oh, well, it's
6.
Yeah, that's
I'm on
still
the official Canadian website for the potential damage of the Yellowstone supervolcano, and if it's from Canada, it must be real.
Well, just imagine even Zone 6 has 6 inches of ash falling on it.
6 centimeters.
6 inches.
6 centimeters.
Well, the Smithsonian Channel said it'd be 6 inches, not 6 centimeters.
I'm not worried about 6 inches of ash. I'm not saying that it would be life as or business as usual, not necessarily, but see, this is the thing. I'm looking at this blast zone map, right, and it's got it broke down from Zone 1, which is the blast, Zone 2, which is the immediate, Zone 3, which is still kind of in
Can
the
you screen share it?
Can
you screen share it?
Not from my phone.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I?
If you can't, you can.
Well, here, let me copy.
The link.
You want me to email it to you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. See if this stupid. See, my desktop won't work with my.
Don't even bother to explain computers. It's like.
After that last update, my Logitech headphones don't work, so I'm on my phone all the time. But I'm sitting here on my desktop. Here, I just sent it. It's cbc .canada./doc something or other. I don't know. Anyhow, so it's got these different zones and whatnot, and Michigan is in Zone 6, and even there are parts of the United States that aren't even affected by this thing. But it looks like a lot of the damage is concentrated right around the volcano. Everything's, of course, in metric, and nobody uses that crap anymore. But 200 kilometers is about 120 miles. So if you're within 120 miles of the blast, yeah, you're screwed. But it's survivable, looks like, according to their stuff. Now, I don't know how accurate this data is, but I'm not saying we wouldn't have blacked out skies. I'm not saying we wouldn't. Okay,
the
so problem, if you go to Zone 6.
The problem, Squid, is that the dust will lacerate your lungs if you breathe any of those microscopic glass shards in. Your lungs will be lacerated and you die. And all that stuff is in the water. It's on the ground. You can't walk without kicking up the dust. You can't drive without kicking up the dust. You can't do anything without kicking up that dust.
Yeah, but the stuff is going to settle. The stuff that gets in the water will eventually settle to the bottom like silt. The stuff that's in the ground will eventually work its way into the ground. Some of it's going to be fertilizer. I'm not going to say, there's going to be a problem. When it rains, we're probably going to get acid rain, and we're going to have probably this stuff rinsing down the roads, and it's going to be like mudslides. And it's saying here that electricity may be cut as wet ash causes shorting in substations. So I can see the power going out. I can see roads being blocked. I can see, nobody's working for weeks and weeks and weeks, except emergency services. I mean, I could see a whole lot of issues. I could see.
The problem that they described on the show was that because trucks won't be able to deliver food or anything on the road because their air filters won't be able to handle that much dust. And
right, it'll clog them up. You're better off leaving them turned off.
So how is anybody going to get any food or fuel or emergency supplies anywhere? How's anybody going to walk? How's anybody going to drive? How's anybody going to breathe? I mean,
I'm not worried about. Okay, here's the thing. If I had a couple feet of this stuff on top of my house, it would crush the house because it weighs so much more than snow. But if I've only got a couple inches of it, I'm just not that worried about it. I'm not saying it's going to be daisies and sunshine. It's not. But we're so far away from the blast that we're not even going to be affected by the blast itself. And yeah, this stuff's going to be in the air and it's going to block the sky. But if this map is scientifically accurate, I'm not saying that this is the only source of information, but I'm using this as my scenario. If this is my scenario, it's totally survivable. I mean, I'm not that worried about it. There are ways to. They'll get the National Guard out. It's doable.
How is the National Guard going to drive anywhere? I mean, you can't go anywhere without a gas mask. Your car won't drive without replacing the filter probably every mile. I mean, I just can't see how anything will move, can be transported anywhere, and walking outside seems like a lethal proposition in any event.
Well, you're going to have it worse than me, so I'm not
Well,
that, you know.
not in Hawaii. I mean, you don't see Hawaii anywhere on the Yellowstone supervolcano map.
No,
I mean,
but guess what? Your supplies come from here. You think they're going to be sending anything to Hawaii? No. They'll be trying to get supplies from the unaffected areas to the affected areas on the mainland before they stick it on a boat and send it out to you.
Right. Well, there are other places on the planet that Hawaii can get supplies from besides the mainland, but
but that damn Jones Act.
I think you're going to throw the Jones Act right out the window if the Yellowstone supervolcano blows up. But I think that the problem that will be global will be if so much sulfur dioxide will aerosolize and be in the stratosphere that there won't be any photosynthesis on the planet, and no plants will grow. No plants means no animals. No animals means there won't be any food for anybody growing. And I don't see how you can't run a combine over, if you kick up so much dust. I mean, you'll need to be in a spacesuit to run a combine on a farm. And I don't know how you're going to irrigate it if all the water, all the groundwater has a layer of volcanic ash floating on top of it. I mean, you aren't going to be able to go down. You aren't going to be able to go down to the creek.
It'll settle
Eventually. But your problem will be the first day, the first week, the first month. Nothing will work. No transportation.
If this thing explodes, by the time the cloud gets to Michigan, it's got to be what, 2-3 days?
I don't know. You want to bug out to Hawaii? I mean, you have to go the other way around the planet to get to me.
Down there at the bottom. Florida's not even affected.
All right. Well, just to bring your crocodile devices, and you'll have to be fighting crocs in the swamp. We got family
in Titusville. That's 24 hours away if we drive straight down I-75.
So. Bring a bunch of spare air filters with you, gas masks for everybody in your family, and
we'll be down in Florida before the cloud gets to Michigan.
You'll be the only person in Florida with with a gas mask who's looking for crocodiles and alligators to hunt and skin for dinner. Yeah. It's when I saw that episode, it didn't look survivable. The way they described it, it didn't look survivable to me. And since I wake up every day and see this gray volcanic fog over my city, I mean, the town that I live in, I won't call it a city, it's so flippin' small, but it is what it is, Kona.
So, but according to this, okay, with so little ash falling in Michigan, then it can't be, like if there is a cloud from this volcano, it just keeps spewing ash for, say, like 6 months straight, and the sky is blocked for 6 months straight, and ash is falling out of the sky for 6 months straight, we wouldn't have 1 to 6 centimeters. We'd have 60 feet of ash. So if it's, once again, going off this website, if that's how little's coming out, then it can't be a constant thing. That or their data is skewed. So, I mean, if this thing just pops like a zit, and what comes out, and that's it, that's one thing. If it just keeps erupting over and over again, like the volcano on your island, then that's a problem. What if they just drill a hole in it and relieve the pressure? Kind of like
who knows? You could trigger
hematoma thing, epidermal hematoma or whatever it is.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor. That's from Kindergarten Cop. Well, it sure looks like something I wouldn't want to have to put up with. I mean, having that much ash rain down on me. I haven't had any ash rain down on this place. Just gray skies and if there's been any volcanic particles, they've been microscopic to seed the clouds. And we've had some rain overnight lately, last night. But it pretty much just, I went out to the pool today, swam a few laps, and there wasn't too much sun. It came out for a couple minutes, but mostly it's just gray, cloudy skies most of the time. It's not fun. So, and I basically just told the condo manager to keep the flipping, have a sign made up so the back gate, people keep the back gate closed so we don't get any displaced homeless people wandering through the condo complex. Not that they can't just walk up the driveway, but if they keep the back gate closed to where some of them hang out all the time, then there's going to be a lot of displaced people because they closed the tunnels from that camp. And so I imagine more people will be fighting over who owns which patch of dirt. Anyway, what was really interesting about the camp is, like I read in some article, is that if somebody wanted to like move in and live there, they have to get permission from, and I quote, the elders. Which means like the people who live there for the longest. And it's like
they're the
kapunas.
The people that visit your house from the Mormon church, they're called the elders.
Well,
they send two teenage kids over on bicycles in suits, and they're called elders. Okay, yeah, sure. So.
Well, that's what they just call the people who have been the older people who've been in camp the longest. They're supposed to be in charge. I don't know. It's like it's not their property, but they act like it is, and so. I mean, I imagine that's how fights start if you don't respect the elders. And so then if there's 30 people in the camp and some of them do respect it, then you try to just move in without their say so, then there'll be a fight. So. But it was just like, well, okay. It's if the shit hits the fan and people are just living anywhere, then I imagine fights will break out all the time over who owns what patch of dirt, or which house, or which condo, or who's in charge of what street.
Man. It sounds like Somalia.
Well, you were there.
Yeah, they were fighting over patches of dirt. Idiots.
Well, they do that here too. So it's just that they don't have, the homeless people weren't like armed with RPGs and AKs over here.
Now, see, if they were, wouldn't it be interesting? You would definitely want to carry the Tavor around then.
Yeah, I feel a lot safer marching up and down the street or my block with the Tavor, but I don't think anybody else would. They saw me marching around the block.
When they look at you and they're all shocked, you'll be like, "It's okay, I'm with Gun Channels," and then they'll be like, "Oh,
it's okay, I'm from the internet. It's okay." Where's I have a pad.
Mr. Gentles, you can flash. Yeah.
I'll just wear my Gun Channels patch.
There you go.
What movie was that from? Nothing to see here. Keep moving along.
Oh, Star Wars. Wasn't it? These aren't the droids you want.
Oh, these aren't the droids you're looking for. That's not. There's nothing to see here. Move along. That was from something else.
Hmm.
Star Wars. There was some Star Wars story that is just eluding me that doesn't matter.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I don't know. Okay, let's see. What else? So I was listening to you on the Travis's show, Caliber Corner, and you were saying that on the Lock and Load channel. I never have a topic, but I just say, okay, we're going live in 5 minutes. Well, I was like, really? But I always ask you for a topic. Can you please?
Yeah, and I got nothing for you. We used to be organized. And yeah, I've slowly but surely let you down.
That's okay. I'm sure our viewership will forgive us. um, let's see. All right.
Well, we could do like Travis and ask the viewers to send in requests, but then see, then we're obligated to have to do them.
No, we're not.
No, it's okay.
um,
Travis has sent emails out in advance saying what the show is going to be about, but not like when the show comes on. Either I skimmed through the email and I didn't get all the information, or I misunderstood and I'm prepared for one thing, and then we start talking about another. I'm like, oh crap! All right, I'll just ad lib.
so if I say tunnels, if I send you out something that we're going to talk about tunnels, you would come prepared for like Vietnam tunnels under Tan Son Nhut Air Base
Yes.
or something.
That's exactly what I was ready for. So yeah,
I wasn't ready for Vietnam. It's all I have to say about Vietnam is that there were no front lines in that war. And, if you were in country, you were the front line. Let's see. And I did binge watch a lot of my tour of duty videos, but then I got 12 Strong and the Pacific, and that was like 8 DVDs, and so I just got tons of war movies. I could only take about 48 hours, for somewhere between 48 hours to 72 hours of straight binge watching war movies before I just, I need to do something else, something completely turn off my brain from that stuff. That's what was so amazing about my grandfather. I mean, can you imagine being in combat for 2.5 years? I mean, that's just insane. I can't even fathom it. I mean, and I've never heard of a deployment like that. I mean, not in the Pacific. I mean, it didn't take 2.5 years to conquer an island or something in the Pacific, and I mean, they rotated troops to rest areas, and when on the Alliance side, after Normandy, I mean, I don't think you were on the broken end of the bottle the whole time. And after Normandy, I imagine you eventually got moved to rest areas for a while, and you just weren't on the front end of it. But
they were pushing through Europe pretty fast. They were pushing through, and some of those guys didn't get a break. What they would do is they go into a theater of operation. They train first for their mission, go to that theater, complete the mission, come back for some R&R, and then they train for the next mission and then get deployed there. So on the Pacific side, they would train to attack a certain island, and after they took the island, they'd get some R&R, and then they'd train for the next island. And over in the European theater, they started off in like North Africa, and then they trained for Italy, they trained for Normandy, they trained for Holland, and some of it was just go, go, go. So I think they were trying to end the war as quickly as possible, and it still took, 5 years, right? Well, 4 for us, less than 4 for us, and 5 or 6 for everybody else. But the sooner you can get it over with, the less people are going to die. We were predicting that if we had to invade Japan, which is what they were ramping up for, both equipment and training wise, we had to invade Japan. We were expecting like 1 million casualties or something.
it would have been more, because they were going to use nuclear weapons on Kyushu Island on the landing beaches and the landing areas to get rid of enemy troops, and then not realize that they'd be marching through their own radiation from their own weapons.
I'm talking about the invasion plan that said the atom bomb was a failure. Before they detonated the bomb in Trinity, they were already ramping up to invade Japan in 1946, and because it was just if they had tried to invade in November of 45, which is when they thought was as soon as they could be ready, they'd be invading in winter, and they thought it might be better to wait till the spring. The same thing happened with Normandy. With Normandy, they were waiting for the warmer weather, but they also didn't want it to be too late, because if they got there in the fall, they'd be dealing with winter right away. At least getting there in July, or I'm sorry, June, would give them a couple months of summer and a month or two of fall before the winter hit. And good thing they did, because the winter was really bad that year. But the whole thing about the Hawaiian or the Japanese invasion plan, a lot of the people that were planning it had no idea we were even developing a nuclear weapon, because it was so classified. And until they detonated the bomb at Trinity, they didn't know if this thing would actually work. They didn't know what it would do. They didn't know. All of it was theory. Nobody had actually detonated one before. And they had enough material to make 3 bombs. They did the test detonation, and then they sent the 2 other ones over and dropped them on Japan and ended the war. But if they had decided that, and those were only 2 we had, they didn't know that. Japanese didn't know that. They didn't know we, didn't have a 3rd or 4th or 5th one to drop on them. So by the time the invasion would have happened next year, yeah, I suppose they would have had a 3rd, 4th, 5th bomb that they could have used to try to clear the landing zones and things like that. It would have been a mess. But it was a gradual, exponential kind of buildup as far as our atomic nuclear arsenal. It was really slow, and then it got more and more, because we got better at producing materials and got better at the weapons and got better. So, and the same thing with the Russians. It was a long time before they had a whole bunch of stuff, and we were spending money hand over fist on weapon systems to deliver these dang things. And people used to have nuclear weapons near their homes, and some people didn't even know it, or they knew it but they didn't know how dangerous they were. A lot of things have changed with that, but yeah, being in combat for 2.5 years, you got to think that these guys that were going to invade Japan in 1946 were the guys that liberated Europe. They were getting all those guys that were in Germany and Czechoslovakia and Austria, that were all the army guys that were over there. They were getting them ready to come back to the States to train to invade Japan the following spring. So sometimes you're
and the
in
problem
that trap a long time.
and
In it a long time.
Yes, 2.5 years was on the Eastern Front was just an insane amount of combat. But I mean, in Japan, the Bushido Code was like the Japanese soldiers were just, the military command was just absolutely opposed to any kind of surrender. And
if we had invaded, what if they put Patton in charge? He'd roll over the Japanese so hard. He'd hit them so hard. I'm not saying it would be an easy victory. It wouldn't, but he would have been the guy I would have wanted.
Oh, what they said about Patton was our blood, his guts, right? Blood and guts, Patton. His guts, our blood. I mean, he was right as far as the faster you end the war, the sooner people stop dying. But in between the Japan's Bushido Code, and there wasn't much room. It was like a no surrender kind of a war. So for all those guys in Europe who would have felt relieved, or were feeling relieved, because they figured their war was over, and in no time they'd be on a ship coming back to America. For a while there, they were a little bit worried that, yeah, they come back to America just to get redeployed. So, what I remember was that during Vietnam, they were sending people on 13-month deployments over to Vietnam, and typically you just had to do one tour, although some people did more than one, whether they were ordered to or they volunteered for it. Desert Storm was a little bit different. It wasn't a prolonged war, so they weren't putting people on necessary tours of duty. I believe what happened with Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraq, and the Second Gulf War and
the Afghanistan thing, I believe those tours were 13 months as well, but people got called back to do multiple tours.
What was interesting about that movie, 12 Strong, was that they interviewed the general in charge of picking a team of special forces to embed with the Northern Alliance. You know, he interviewed 5 different captains of different special forces, and he said, well, this operation is going to take 6 weeks for you to get in there and break through to this town, and Masal al-Sharif or something like that. And he said, no, we're gonna have to do it in 3 weeks, not 6 weeks. This is why. Because snow starts falling, everything's gonna grind to a halt. Nothing's gonna move. Nobody's in it. If it's 6 weeks, it'll never get done. We have to do it in 3 weeks. So he was like he said, you're the only person I've talked to that actually understands what the mission is. So it's your mission. And it helps to know and study what you're doing. But I recommend that movie, 12 Strong, if you can get the DVD at Walmart. So it was like a 3-month deployment, but it was pretty much constant combat and calling in airstrikes on your own position most of the time. So it was one of those insane missions, I guess. That as a special forces mission, it was like a Green Beret special forces, because you had to be good at dealing with indigenous forces, which is what the Green Berets do. Work with indigenous forces, and so it was a great movie. I kind of liked it. It seemed very realistic. What I liked about it. And you don't see too many realistic war movies. And I think it was because it was based on a book written by the people who were on that mission, and they were all the actors, the people who were on the mission were involved with the movie. So I found it an enlightening kind of a realist. More, I mean, in a lot of war movies, they sacrifice some parts of realism for dramatic effect for a reason, but this one seemed pretty realistic to me. So, that being said, I'm happy to be a civilian, but I really respect everybody that puts on a uniform and fights for America, and it's just it's one of the things that keeps the freedom alive on the planet in some respects. So, all right, you have anything on current events with the whole Trump thing, or
not
Trump's
really
expedition to Europe there? Seems like everybody that didn't like Trump, including John McCain, they started ragging on him for his Putin press conference or something. But it's like not everything was in it. There were 2 closed-door meetings, and nobody knows what happened in those. But we'll just have to let time on. We're still America. If Trump did a bad job at the press conference, okay, maybe he did a bad job. It didn't seem that bad to me, but everybody's ragging on him. So whatever. Same old, I guess.
I think the Russians respect power. And if Trump's got to be the biggest jerk in the world to have that image, so be it. Here's the thing. I think they weren't afraid of Hillary. I think they're afraid of Trump. I also think that Trump would rather keep them on a short leash than have to fight them if something happened down the road. I don't necessarily mean a direct conflict between us and them, but the whole Ukraine thing and all the other garbage, right? Or the Russians selling
the Middle East with Iran getting out of control in the Middle East.
So it's almost one of those keep your enemies closer thing. So Trump's the guy to handle it. Hillary would have botched it up. She would have strained our relations with Russia even worse. I just don't think she was the kind of person to deal with them. But these guys are old school male pigs, okay? And being a male pig myself,
male chauvinist pig. There was this coffee
so
restaurant.
You want Hillary to come in there with her pantsuit and for them to not respect her all, or you want Trump to come in there with his thing and they're going to go like, he's like one of us. And you can call it whatever you want to call it, but sometimes that's what you need.
Russian oligarch. You think he's like bonds with Russian oligarchs? I don't know.
Okay, think about how these executives get together. They've all got their college degrees and their country clubs and their perfect lives and their fancy cars and expense accounts, and they're all sleeping with their secretaries and blah 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 blah. They speak the same language.
That's your conception of what it's like, but okay.
Yeah, I've seen enough of that. Yeah. Trump speaks their language. I'm not saying he's Russian or he's for Russia or whatever. I'm just saying that there's a certain kind of person that you send in to deal with other people. I mean, Trump is kind of a bully. Okay? You need a bully to deal with a bully sometimes. Trump is old school. These guys are old school. Trump is a powerful man, and he's very masculine. He's not at all some sort of, skinny jean wearing sissy. All right. They're going to respect that. And would you rather have your enemy respect you and say, you know what, we're just not going to mess with you? Or would you rather have the enemy poking at you all the time just to see how far they could get? So
as a nation, it's different than as a person. As an individual, I prefer to have people stupidly underestimate me until it's too late. And I don't want them to realize how deep they misjudge me until it's too late. As a nation, no, I prefer them to completely understand what they're getting into if they take on the nation that way. Like it says, parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war, and you'll have peace. If you appear strong, and you'll have peace. If you appear weak, then you will have war. So, personally, it's one thing, but as a country, yeah, you want somebody who, like the saying goes, only Nixon could go to China. I don't think there would have been any meeting or anything at all if Hillary was president. I mean,
that's a Vulcan saying.
No, they used that. That was only Nixon could go to China was not a Vulcan saying. That they said that was Walter Cronkite or something like that. I don't know if it was Cronkite or somebody else, but that was around before started. The Star Trek used it. Was that on the Voyage Home, or was that a different one? I don't know. That was on Undiscovered Country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was. Let's see. That movie was. That was when they were trying to make peace with the Klingons. It's supposed to represent U.S. and Russia in the Cold War, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, Undiscovered Country, that was just a line from a Shakespeare play.
And yeah, they had to create the verb be in the Klingon language, because originally when it was written, the verb be did not exist. And how can you say to be or not to be in Klingon if that word doesn't exist in Klingon? So they had to create it. And then, it's a really gratuitous use of horses by Shatner. So, because he loves horses. So, then he did it again in Generations. So.
All right. Okay, here's a quick pop quiz for you, or anybody else out there that's listening. What army used bicycles for a major army attack, and where?
Well, I know the Swiss used to use bikes, but
they don't attack. They don't attack anybody
since the 17th century, I think.
So this is an attack.
Probably the Krauts.
No.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was the Japanese going down Malaya Peninsula to
Ike?
Hong Kong. Yeah, they used bicycles. All they needed was their guns, some ammunition, a sack of rice, and a bicycle. And they bicycled down the Malay Peninsula to attack Singapore or Hong Kong. Basically, they bicycled all the way down the Malay Peninsula. That's Hong Kong down there at the bottom of that, or anyway,
No, Hong
Kuala
Kong's in
Lumpur.
China. Yeah, maybe that or
Yeah, it was the Japanese army that used it anyway. Used bicycles. So that's why I was like, you should get a bicycle if you have to go to, if there's an EMP and you have to go to Dusty's farm. But an EMP seems almost easy compared to a volcanic, the Yellowstone supervolcano. That just seems like a global catastrophe. We can only hope it doesn't happen in our lifetimes. It has been 600,000 years since the last one, so maybe we have a few tens of thousands of years grace period before it happens again. Whatever's happening up there now, I don't know. I saw some. I'm getting tired of watching volcano videos. I mean, of stuff. So whenever I see something on YouTube about the Yellowstone supervolcano, it's like, oh, not again. You know, I don't need. The last thing I need in my life is another fucking volcano. I mean, we have volcanoes. I live on an island made out of 5 volcanoes. One of them's erupting. They haven't seen there's only like one day with blue skies over the last month. So kind of getting tired. It gets old pretty quick. The waking up to these log-covered skies every day. But there's no glass pumice raining down over here. That's just like over the coming up around where the lava boat was on the east tip of the island, around Kapoho and that hop pond that got overrun. It's very sorry we lost that. Anyway, I think we're pretty much done for this week's show. If anybody has any comments, they have subjects that we should talk about, bring it up. Did you know that the Texas was actually one of the ships that bombarded the shores at Normandy at Pointe du Hoc?
Yeah. She was deployed in Europe and the Pacific both. Yeah. I can't remember if Texas took place, if Texas was there, was it Algiers when they went in North Africa, or down in Toulon when they invaded southern France. But yeah, this ship was all over.
So I just wanted to say that after having saw the episode on the Pacific, which was by Steve Spielberg and Hanks producing, that Sergeant Basil Lone, the guy who, I don't know if he's a real person that they put in the movie or they was a character for the movie, because I haven't watched the last disc about all
I think so. I think he's real, because there's a street named after him on Camp Pendleton. Just like the general who was telling, he was talking to one of the guys who raised the flag at Iwo Jima, right? About how important the war bond sales were.
Yeah, Chesty
Yeah,
Puller.
that was General. No, that was General Vandegrift.
Oh yeah, that was right, Vandegrift. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Chesty was over in. He was on the islands. He wasn't stateside per se, and I think he was just a colonel in World War II. He didn't get promoted until after. The problem
I gotta say, go ahead.
Well, so because he's a colonel, he's a higher-ranking officer, but he's still sort of in the field, right? Well, Chesty would put his command post right on the front lines. And every time a general would come down to see what was going on, they expected the command post to be safely in the rear, and they had to go up where they're getting shot at to see him. And he would get in trouble, and they'd say, you can't do this, you have to put your command post in the rear. And then as soon as they'd leave, he'd move his command post right back up to the front.
Yeah, there was a scene when they were on Tarawa where the Chesty Puller was leading his Marines back from the front lines, and some other Marines were going out, and they were, I mean, him and his Puller and his Marines were all chewed up and like barely could walk, and everybody that going up to the front lines was like, you know, giving them their cigarettes or Hershey bars or whatever they could because they looked like they were about to fall down. And but yeah, he was definitely on the front lines.
He was not afraid to do anything.
Lead from the front.
He was asking his men to do. He was the guy who, when they were having problems getting, you know, fresh guys in there, or when they were about to get overrun or something, he would be like, grab your rifle, grab your carbine, come on. And he was having the cooks and the clerks and everybody who run up there and fight. And these are guys that are like, I'm a clerk, I'm a cook, I'm a supply sergeant. I don't, you know, fuck you, get up there and fight. You didn't go to a boot camp and AIT to learn how to fight, and just because you're not an infantry guy or an artillery guy or something, you're never gonna, you know. And he was pushing these guys. We need bodies up there. Grab your rifle, grab your carbine, and get up there. And he put guys in the fight that, you know, were expecting to just have kind of a cushy behind the scenes thing. And you never know when you're in the service, no matter what job you do, that you might end up in a situation where you have to fight. So, yeah,
having watched Baz Alone, I mean, fight in the different how they portrayed him on this miniseries, the Pacific. I mean, I think I could do what he did on Guadalcanal, but I could not do what he did on Iwo Jima. I'm not as young and strong enough to do jumping in the up and down. I mean, that was like trench warfare on volcanic sand. I know how hard it is to climb up a sandy trench. It's like, you know, I'm too old for that shit anymore. He was younger when he did it, obviously, than I am. But I'm just going to say you should watch that. You should get yourself that. I think it was $19 at Walmart. that series. I think you'll like it. It's not a classic movie in the sense, but it's all about the Marines. On Guadalcanal, he was basically his squad was about to be overrun, and he had the machine gun, and he just kept basically the Japanese were just ended up doing a bonsai charge, and he just like took out 40 Japanese with his machine gun after the whole rest of the squad ran out of ammo. And at the end of the scene, he was like shocked. He looked around, and there's like 40 dead Japanese soldiers around the machine gun position, and everybody else is shocked because they're all out of ammo, and they're wondering how come they're not dead, you know. And so that's what he won the CMH for. And then when he goes back into combat on Iwo Jima, he's just kicking ass the whole fucking way before he gets killed. And it was just amazing combat sequence on Iwo Jima. It's like, I looked at it, like, there's no way, I'm too old. I can't do that kind of combat anymore. I mean, or I'm just too old to jump up and down in and out of like trenches like that. I could sit at a machine gun position and keep firing. But it was, and that was when I was describing to you the other week about how it was like you couldn't see anything when it was dark. But yeah, you can also, you can't go out. If you're a standing guard, you can't leave your guard post in the dark because nobody to go take a pee or a dump, because nobody will know. You have to yell that you're leaving your position. And if you don't, then you're just going to assume that whoever's on guard is going to assume that anybody marching toward them is the enemy, and so you'll get yourself shot if you. So yeah, I was saying use a urinal bottle if you have to go, or if you don't want to pee in your own trench, foxhole. But it was like that. The night combat scenes were like it's just chaos. You don't see anything almost except flashes of light and explosions, and. But I mean, going up on Iwo Jima, that was just insane. That combat, I couldn't do that. I'm too old. But my heart would be in it, but I couldn't do it anymore. So hopefully, if I'm ever at Dusty's Farms, I don't have to do anything like that. I'm just too old to do that. But it was a good. I think it was interesting to watch it. So there's a street in Camp Pendleton named Basilone Street.
I think it's Drive. And, there's a street named after General Vandegrift, and there's streets on all the bases named after all kinds of people. But yeah, I want to say Basilone is when it goes out the back gate. Oh, it's been so long. And Vandegrift runs from the main gate through Mainside, if I remember correctly. If there's any other devil dogs out there, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a couple decades.
Well, Father Time is undefeated.
I could just Google it. Let's see, Basilone Drive. Let's see here. Riverside, California. Blah 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 blah. I don't want a house. MCB Camp Pendleton. Vandegrift Boulevard. Yeah. All right. Give me the map. Where's Mainside? Let's go over to the other end of the base. Yeah, Vandegrift runs all the way through to, I think, the hospital. Basilone Road. Here we go. Yep, it's still there. And where was? Yeah, let's see. Goes through Las Pulgas. 48 area. Yeah, this has got to go all the way to the back. It's got to be. It's been a long time I've been through here. 53 area. Yeah.
You know what was really interesting was when he went back in between. He went back to train new recruits at Camp Pendleton after he had already won the CMH at Guadalcanal, and there's like he walked into the barracks and there's just two guys who are sitting there or laying down because they didn't have a sergeant, there wasn't anybody else assigned to the squad, and he just starts laying into him up and says okay, they say, well, we're on sick leave and nobody's here and the rest of this, and so he's like immediately, you're the first machine gun squad of 2nd Platoon. Grab a machine gun and we're going to start training right now. And he was dead serious about getting them to set up a machine gun like in less than 6 seconds or something. So one guy was carrying the tripod around and the ammo, and the other guy was carrying the machine gun. And it's like he's just yelling at him, screaming at him the whole time he's setting it up. And so. But he was dead serious. He was just the same way in training as he was in combat. He was trying to impart that speed counted, and they had to do everything right and not fuck up, and do it fast. And, there's just some things that I, at 54 years old, that I can't do anymore. And that kind of training is one of them. But it's like, wow, it was an interesting miniseries to watch. But since you're already in the Marines, it'd probably be nothing new that you haven't seen before. but it was interesting. I don't think any of the other instructors at Camp Pendleton had the same sense of urgency in training that this guy had, because he trained like it was combat. He trained them like it was combat the whole time. I don't know if that was how it was with you or not, but that's how he was training them.
Yeah, you fight like you train. You train like you fight. If you don't train like you fight, when you get there, you're not going to make it. And if you're not fighting the way you've been training the whole time, then what was the whole point of your training? So yeah, this is kind of sad. I'm looking at where I did MCT, Marine Combat Training. I stayed in the same Quonset huts my dad stayed in for AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, before he shipped off to Vietnam. Now they're gone. I'm looking at Google Maps, and there's just the asphalt's still there, but all the Quonset huts are gone. Nothing stays the same.
Well, is that the steel, corrugated steel, like those half circle? Is that what those were?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, obviously they rust over time.
No, not out in California, man. You lived out there. You know how stuff lasts. I mean,
it's
the ocean
dry.
is down the street, but it's not that close. We're not getting salt spray. But when Dad was at MCRD San Diego, they were building the barracks. Because I seen a picture of the base the year he was there. They were building the barracks that I was in the 90s. And then when I went to Marine Combat Training, which is like a shortened version of the School of Infantry, they send everybody to MCT, and then from there, if you're a grunt, you go off to School of Infantry, and if you're not, you go to your other school. Now they've changed it. Now they integrate the stuff, or they don't make you go twice if you're already going to be a ground pounder. But anyhow, when I was was training there, yeah, we were in the same steel Quonset huts that he was in the 60s when he was at AIT. But I remember too, when I was a kid growing up, I'd go on base, Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point in North Carolina, and they had these old rickety wooden barracks and stuff these guys were staying in the 70s and 80s. And when I got stationed nearby, they needed somebody to go to Cherry Point to go get some calibrated equipment. They had a calibration lab there for equipment to work on the aircraft, and we didn't have that at New River. It was a smaller air station. And I said, yeah, I know my way around. And the gunnery sergeant said, you don't know your way around. I said, where am I supposed to go? And he told me, and I told him exactly what streets, and he goes, oh, you do know. Okay, go. So took my car down there, and I hadn't been there in I don't even know how many years. And they were building new barracks, and these were really nice looking barracks. They were tearing down the old wooden rickety 1940s barracks and stuff like that. And so it was way different. The small hangars that were up and down the flight line were these gigantic industrial, because they had moved all the Navy people from Jacksonville, Florida up to Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. So they had to build all these bigger buildings because now they were able to do repair work on the aircraft. They used to have to fly them down to Florida to do. And it was a big change. So everything changes.
See, let me show you this is a screen share from the local paper of the Pohakaloa training, the Quonset huts up there.
Yeah. If that was silver, that was what we lived in when I was at MCT, and what Dad lived in AIT.
Well, if it was silver, this thing hasn't been silver in many, many years. Obviously, just looking at it, I don't know if you can see it, but let me get back to that page. So many flipping windows open up. Let's see. Quonset huts constructed in the 1950s at Pohakaloa training area would be demolished and replaced as part of $210 million facilities improvement project the Army is looking to undertake at the military installation. So 210 military. See, Army is looking to modernize a small portion of the 134,000 acre training space situated between Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea by replacing aging buildings. And the PTA's cantonment area. I don't even know what that means. to, quote, improve personal safety and quality of life, as well as to meet current building criteria and comply with anti-terrorism standards. Well, that building looks so flippin' old. It's like, but here's what it looks like inside. It doesn't look too terrible inside, but the outside just looks like a rust bucket.
Sometimes they will keep some of that old stuff in service, and sometimes they just let it go, and sometimes they bulldoze it and replace it with nice new buildings. And part of, I tell you what, when I see some of the old stuff go away, it's kind of sad. When I see some of it still around, it's a little nostalgic. Last year, my son and I went to an abandoned army base in Indiana, and we were walking around, and you could see a lot of history was still there. I mean, it was in total ruins, but it's just something about it.
Well, it's a sense of history, I guess, and the time, you get the feeling of time passing. And Father Time is undefeated. It'll take down steel buildings and pretty much anything else, depending on the humidity, I guess. But if this was silver, shiny silver and new once, it's not anymore. It's brown and rusty. I can see why they need to replace it. But yeah, they have $210 million to play with. They'll get some new buildings. Mostly when I drive by there, it's just used for artillery practice. And once in a while, they'll have a Stryker battalion go up there and practice too. And there'll usually be something in the paper about a convoy from Kauai High Harbor to Hakaloa training range. And, so people know to stay off the roads, or if the traffic's blocked off, that's why. But anyway, that's our one local military installation here, really, of any significance. And since it's just practice target range, I don't see it as a tempting military target for anybody, since usually it's mostly vacant. I mean, there's some security people stationed there, and that's it. As far as I know, unless there's an active training deployment there for a couple of weeks. But all right, so we're going to end this show for this week, and thanks everybody for listening, and give us a thumbs up if you can, and tune in next week for another edition of Lock and Load on Gun Channels. Peace.
Later.